Om. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Param. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badharayanam Sutrabhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Samasta Janakalyane Nirata Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. We are discussing about Sukshma Sharira, especially the mind, that is very distinctly experienced. Swapno bhavatasya vibhaktyasta swamatra sheshana vibhati yatra swapne tu buddhi swayameva jagrata kalina nana vida vasanabhihi. In dream, without the help of the gross body, mind is experienced. And in dream, Kartradi bhavam pratipadya rajate yatra swayam bhati hyayam paratma dhimatra kobad asheshakshi na lipyate tatkrita karma leshaihi yasmat asangastata eva karma bihi na lipyate kinchit upadina kritaihi. The mind shines by assuming various roles. In the dream, various roles are taken by the mind only. The subject, the object, the instrument, the purpose of transaction, the location of all actions, everything, nothing but the mind. Of course, the Atma is there behind. In the light of consciousness only everything happens. But the main player there is the mind. So in dream alone, the mind clearly becomes an object of my experience, because every object in the dream is nothing but the mind. In the waking state, mind is there as an instrument. I am neither the object mind nor am I the instrument mind. Thus, dream becomes very important for Vedantic analysis. All the karmas done in the dream do not touch me, the waker. That is very clear. In the same way, you wake up to your higher true nature. Then you are free from all the karmas. Sanchita, Agami, Prarabdha, Karma. You are the Atma which is not affected, being unattached to anything and everything. It's not affected by the actions done by the Upadhi, instrument or medium of transaction, even a little bit. Then in the waking state, Sarva Vyapriti Karanam Lingam Idam Sachidatmanah Pumsah Vasyadikam Iva Takshnah Tenaivatma Bhavati Asangoyam. The Sukshma Sharira is an instrument in the waking state. Whether the mind serves as an object, as in the dream state, or an instrument in the waking state, it is not the subject. That's the main point. Therefore, Atma is essentially from and different from the Sukshma Sharira. That's the bottom line. The conditions of the instrument, Andatva Mandatva Patutva Dharmaha, Saugunya Vaigunya Vashadi Chakshushaha, Bhadirya Mukatva Mukastataiva, Shrotradi Dharma, Natu Veturatmanaha. All that, the conditions, belong to the instrument. The conditions of the instrument that make up the subtle body do not belong to the Atma. Mind is just an instrument different from me. And I, the Atma, am the eternal, unaffected subject. So this is what we need to very clearly understand. So now, after discussing the mind, we continue with prana, the another component of the subtle body. Verse 102. Uchvasa nishvasa vijrumbanakshuta. Uchvasa nishvasa vijrumbanakshuta. Prasyandanadyutkramanadikah kriyah. Prasyandanadyutkramanadikah kriyah. Pranadikarmani vadanti tajñāh. Pranadikarmani vadanti tajñāh. Pranasya dharma vasana pipase. Vasana pipase. Uchvasa nishvasa vijrumbanakshuta. Prasyandanadvutkramanadikah kriyah. Pranadikarmani vadanti tajñāh. Pranasya dharma avashana pipase. So Shankaracharya has earlier talked about jnanendriyas, karmendriyas, as well as antakarana. Now he takes up the pancha pranas and their functions. They are uchvasa, breathing in, nishvasa, breathing out, vijrumbhana, yawning, kshut means sneezing, prasyandana adi, all types of secretions from any part of the body like tears, saliva, all of them. Then utkramana, vomiting, ejecting, adikaha, kriyaha, all these functions are shared by the pancha pranas. Therefore he says, pranadi karmani vadanti tat jnaha. All these are said to be the activities of prana, etc. By the word adi, all of them, prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana, all that are indicated. Among these activities of pancha pranas, one of them itself is called prana. So we have to carefully note the word prana. It can refer to one of the pancha pranas or to prana. Can be one or the collective name of all the five. Thus, the word prana can refer to one function or collectively all functions as indicated by the third pada. The pranasya dharma, function of the prana, ashana pipase or ashana, hunger, pipasa, thirst. So here, Shankaracharya does not talk about the individual functions. We've seen that before. Prana generally stands for respiratory system. Apana stands for the excretory system. Vyana stands for the circulatory system. Samana, digestive system. Udana stands for reversing system. All that we've seen already. He just presents it a little bit differently. But these are all the physiological functions. Udana becomes active under two conditions. When there is some toxin in the system to reverse the genital process, like vomiting. The food that it goes down into your stomach, but when there is something, the stomach is upset and the stomach wants to get rid of what it has in there, you throw up. It's a reverse process. That is helped by the Udana Vayu. And the second occasion when Udana Vayu is active is Marana Kala, at the time of death. And every process has to be reversed. Every process has to be withdrawn. And finally, the very prana itself has to be taken off the body. So it is a Utkramana Vayu that is taking everything out. The details Shankaracharya does not give. He just talks about in a general fashion. So that is prana. Then continuing verse 103. Antakaranamedeshu chakshurādishu varshmani ahamiti abhimanena tishtati abhasa tejasa Antakaranamedeshu chakshurādishu varshmani ahamityabhimanena tishtatyabhasa tejasa. Now, antakaranam is the ahankara. Yeteshu, in all this, chakshuradishu, in eyes, etc., meaning the five organs of perception, organs of knowledge, jnanendriya. And in the five organs of action, five pranas, identified with all them, and varshmani in the body also, ahamiti abhimanena tishtati, remains there, abhimanena, identified with all of them as aham, I. When identified with the body, whatever is the nature of the body becomes my nature. I identify with my eyes and I say I am blind, my eyesight is sharp, my eyesight is dull, and all that. I identify. Now as I'm growing old, I don't hear as well as I used to. So all these sense organs, there are different levels, how sharp they are or how dull they are. The feelings like this is due to the identification with the nature of the upadhis. That is the condition of the upadhi, not that of the atma. But identify with them, it remains abhasa tejasa. With the light of reflection of consciousness. Consciousness is reflected in the buddhi upadhi. Otherwise, buddhi upadhi, the intellect is inert, mind is inert, insentient. But when consciousness is reflected, the chidabhasa is there, manifests as life, and then there is sentience in the otherwise inert upadhis. Continuing now. Ahankarasya vigneyaha. Ahankarasya vigneyaha. Karta bhokta bhimanyayam. Karta bhokta dhimanyayam. Satvadi guna yogena. Satvadi guna yogena. Chavastatrayam Chavastatrayam Ahankarasya vigneyaha Karta bhokta bhimanyayam Satvadi yogena Chavastatrayam We've seen the organs of knowledge are meant for perception, and organs of action are instruments for performing actions. The mind is the deliberating thoughts, intellect is the determining thoughts. But who has a sense of doership? I am doing all that. That sense, that is ahankara, the ego sense. Sa vigneha, that is to be understood. So I am abhimani. This ego has identification with all of them, the doership, and says, I am doing this. I am the karta. I am the doer. Bhokta. I am the enjoyer, experiencer. The eyes and ears do not have the doership. They are only instruments of perception. That doer, enjoyer is called ahankara. This ahankara is the one Satvadi guna yogena, because of association with gunas, such as sattva, meaning sattva, rajas, and tamas. Then cha avastatrayam ashnute. Then that ego experiences the waking state, dream state, and the deep sleep state. So I say, I am the waker, I am the dreamer, and then I slept well. For all that, ahankara is required. The three states happens because of the preponderance of the three gunas in them. When tamo guna is prominent, ahankara goes to sleep. It's in a dormant state. When sattva guna is dominant, then it is the waking state, because you have the ability to know. The mind is very active. All sense organs of knowledge are active. In the dream state, there is a lot of rajas. So much of activity is going on. The mind projects the impressions. So activities are going on. There's not any knowledge taking place. So because of all the activities that are going on, although they are all illusory, pratibhasika, activity is going on. Tamas is not that much prominent there. You may have the dreamer, you may be dreaming that you are sleeping in dream. That is possible. But that is the tamas of the dreamer. Okay. But predominantly it's rajas. Like that, we can also identify in which state, which guna is prominent. Of course, all three gunas are there in all the three states, but which one is prominent? That is important. This ahankara ego is called the jiva, the individual self. There are different names for ahankara. We are all the time using the word I. That I is ego only. Here the word ego is not used in the sense of arrogance or anything like that. Quite often we get fixated on this word ahankara as ego, and with all its negative connotations. In Vedanta, when you're studying Vedanta, we need to shy away from that, that kind of a fixated meaning. It's used in the technical sense. It is an identification with one upadhi or the other, one thing or the other. And without that, we cannot carry any activity. It is one individual self that is sometimes happy, sometimes unhappy. How that individual goes through all this is very, very nicely pointed out in the next verse. Verse 105. विषयाणामनुकूले कुल्ये विषयाणाम् अनुकूल्ये सुखी दुःखी विपर्यये सुखी दुःखी विपर्यये सुखं दुःखं च तद्धर्मः सुखं दुःखं च तद्धर्मः सदानन्दस्य नात्मनः सदानन्दस्य नात्मनः विषयाणाम् आनुकूल्ये सुखी दुःखी विपर्यये सुखं दुःखं च तद्धर्मः सदानन्दस्य नात्मनः. Now in this verse 105, Bhashyakara says the very same ahankara, the jiva, experiences sukham and dukkham, joy and sorrow. So, vishayanam anukulye, sukhi, when everything goes well. Anukula, that is conducive, just like what you wanted. Everything going well, everything is fine, everybody is behaving as I want, then I am good, fine, bright, smile. I smile without any reason. Then viparyaye dukhi, when things are not going as well, they are not going as I want, there's no smile. Somebody comes in front of me, that person is well known to me, he's smiling at me. He says, Hari Om, how are you? No reaction, no reciprocation. I'm okay. You can see all that, the body language tells you. So all these are the struggles for jiva. The jiva goes through all that. It's the ahankara which is experiencing all this. And therefore he says, sukham dukkham cha dharma. These ups and downs. Sukham, joy, happiness. Dukkham, sorrow, grief, unhappiness, all this. Pleasure and pain. They all belong to the Sukshma Sharira. Sukshma Sharira Pradhana Jiva. The Ahankar. Whenever you say, I am happy, or you say, I am miserable, you are referring to the conditions of the mind. Now Shankaracharya digresses a little bit. It's discussed about Sukshma Sharira, which is Anatma. Remember, we are still in the discussion of Anatma only. Sthula Sharira finished, all the components of Sukshma Sharira also he has discussed. Now he starts talking about Atma. Because Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, then what would be the logical next step? We should be talking about Karana Sharira. But before he takes it up, he talks about Atma. He does not stop with saying Sukham and Dukkham belong to the Ahankara experiences, but adds Na Atmanah. They don't belong to Atma. The Atma Chaitanyam, it doesn't have Sukham and Dukkham. Atma does not have any joy and sorrow. It is Sadanandasya. It's ever blissful. That Atma is of the nature of happiness. Satchit Anand. That is its Swarupa. The very nature of Atma is Anand. Sadanandasya, ever blissful. Now he has used two words. Sukham and Ananda. Sukham and Ananda. For the Jiva, for the Ahankara, he used the word Sukham. For Atma, he uses the word Ananda. These are subtle nuances that we need to pay attention, because we use them interchangeably quite often. So what's the difference? Difference is this. All experiential pleasures are called Sukham. Whereas Ananda is non-experiential. In a normal usage, we use it. Ananda means happiness. Sukha means happiness. But here, we have to be a little bit careful, is in the technical sense. When we are discussing in this context, we should never translate Ananda as an experiential pleasure, some joy that is experienced. You should not, because such a pleasure, experiential pleasure, is finite. As long as that conducive experience is there, joy is there. And when that experience goes away, the joy is also gone. Every experience is finite. Therefore, that Sukham is finite. Luckily, Dukkham is also finite. These two will come to pass. So as you're going through that, keep that in mind. All Sukham, finite only. That is why we assert even the so-called Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, in which a person may experience the highest joy. People who are very successful in meditation, who have been able to reach that Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, when they come back and talk about that, they talk about that state. How wonderful it was. State of bliss and all that. But once they come out of that state, that experience is gone, that joy is gone. So even what is experienced in Nirvikalpaka Samadhi is experiential only. It is experienced in that state. You cannot call it Ananda. In Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, if a person experiences the highest bliss, it's a bliss experience in that Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. And those yogis themselves point out that I had that pleasure, I enjoyed it very much, but I have come down now. So they call it samadhi avastha. It's a state of experience. And when they come out, dukkha avastha. It's a problem. And especially people who have done that and come out of samadhi, and when they come out, that suffering is more. They enjoyed it so much. When they come out of it, they miss it so much. So they say after experience that highest bliss, when they come down, they feel so much pain. So we say that even the highest bliss that is experienced in the most ecstatic state will come under sukham only. It will not be called ananda. Then what is ananda? Ananda is not a particular experience. Not a particular experience. It is nothing but purnatvam. Purnatvam that is claimed, owned up by jnana. The sense of fulfillment, completeness. Knowing that I do not lack anything in life. I don't need anything to make me happy. I am happiness. Born out of that knowledge. And that knowledge is permanent. Purnatvam is permanent. That ananda is permanent. It doesn't come and go. Therefore, sadanandasya atmanah. So for that ever purna atma, there is neither experiential pleasure nor experiential pain. All such pleasures and pain belong to ahankara alone, not to atma. And again, we have to remember, we are talking about atma is this, atma is that, atma is ever happy. It is the nature of happiness, all that we are saying. Please understand that you are. So you are the nature of happiness. You are that Atma. You are Ananda Swarupa. Okay? The Sukha, Dukkha, etc., they are all the nature experienced by this Anatma. They will go through that. So that is what we are driving. So all this description about Atma is this and that. Don't look at it as a description of some third person. You have to understand it. They are talking about me. I am that joy. I am that Anand. Sadanandasya atmanah. There is neither experiential pleasure nor experiential pain. All that belong to the ahankar. And I'm not that. If a person is interested in that, if he says, I want to enjoy the samadhi ananda, let him enjoy. You should remember that any experiential pleasure is subject to come in and go in. It belongs to what? Anandamaya kosha. Belongs to Anandamaya kosha. Conditions of the mind. Belongs only to Ahankar. It should not be understood. It should not be mistaken to be Atmananda. It's not Atmananda. Only belongs to the Ahankar. You should never ask, when can I experience Atmananda? Because the moment you use the word experience, it's no more Atmananda. So you must keep these in mind. If you want Ananda, then own up to your true nature. I am Atma. Aham Brahmasmi. So I am ever Purna. I am Ananda. I am happiness personified. How is that Atma always happy? Let us see. Verse 106. आत्मार्थत्वेन हि प्रेयान् आत्मार्थत्वेन हि प्रेयान् विषयो न स्वतः प्रियः विषयो न स्वतः प्रियः स्वत एव हि सर्वेषां स्वत एव हि सर्वेषाम् आत्मा प्रियतमो यतः आत्मा प्रियतमो यतः तत आत्मा सदानन्दः तत आत्मा सदानन्दः नास्य दुःखं कदाचन नास्य दुःखं आत्मा विषयो न स्वतः प्रियः स्वत एव हि सर्वेषाम् आत्मा प्रियतमो यतः तत आत्मा सदानन्दः नास्य दुःखं कदाचन. So, as I pointed out, Shankaracharya has taken a diversion from the discussion on the Anatma topic, and he's talking about Atma a little bit. In these two verses, 106 and 107, he establishes that Atma is Ananda Swarupaha, of the nature of happiness. He gives 4 pramanas to support. Anumana, Shruti, Pratyaksha, and Aitehyam. Logic, scripture, experience, and the words of Acharya. Of these 4, Anumana Pramana is given. This is an important topic, a technical topic. The reasoning is like this. Whatever is an object of liking must be a source of Ananda. Whatever is an object of liking must be the source of Ananda, happiness. You say, I like music because the music gives me joy. And I dislike anything that is a source of sorrow. We've seen this. This is not a new idea. Advaita Makaranda starts with that. Now look at the verse. Atma tattvena hi preyan vidah. An object that is dear to me, my own personal benefit, na swatah priyah, not for its own sake. I do not like an object for the sake of the object. I like it because it gives me happiness for me. The moment it stops giving me happiness, I reject it. Nothing is liked for its own sake. Again, I've mentioned it several times. I've given the reference of Maitreyi Brahmana in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where he goes through about, I don't know how many, I need to go back and count, maybe 20. I like it not because of that. A husband likes the wife, not for the wife's sake, but for his sake. Same thing with the wife. Wife likes the husband, loves the husband, not for the husband's sake, but for her sake. Same thing with children, every one of them he goes through. So, Atmanastu Kamaya, it is for you, because it makes you happy. Therefore, Swata eva hi sarvesham Atma Priyatamah. Therefore, this Atma should be Priyatama, superlative degree. Dearest. It's not Mami dearest, it is Mimi dearest. Yataha Priyatamaha Tataha Atma Sadanandaha. Since Atma is the dearest to all, it should be the nature of happiness itself. Further, na asya dukkham kadachan. There is never any sorrow, not an iota of sorrow in Atma. It is pure, unalloyed Ananda. Untouched, untainted with any dukkha. Not a trace of unhappiness in it. Not a trace of dukkha at any time. This is also very important to note. Anything can be a source of ananda. So many objects of this world gives you joy, but they can never be without some sorrow associated with that. Some dukkha is associated with that. But when we are talking about Atma, Atmananda, it is dukkha rahitaha anandaha. It's total bliss, bereft of any sorrow. So we have to understand this very clearly. More about Atma, he will talk. He just, in between Sukshma Sharira and Karna Sharira, he talks about Atma. Just a couple of verses. Continuing verse 17. Yat sushuptau nirvishaya, yat sushuptau nirvishaya, atmanando nubhuyate, atmanando nubhuyate, shruti pratyakshamai aitehyam, shruti pratyakshamai tehyam, anumanam cha jagarati. Anumanam cha jagrati yat sushuptau nirvishaya atmanando nubhuyate shruti pratyakshamai anumanam cha jagrati. So in the previous verse, the logic was given. Atma is Ananda Swarupaha, because it is universally, unconditionally loved, liked. Now Shankaracharya comes to Pratyaksha Pramana. Pratyaksha, direct perception. This is the most powerful Pramana, means of knowledge. Pratyaksha, I saw it with my own eyes. Eyewitness. Pratyaksha. Prati-aksha. So the personal experience is taken up for analysis. It says in sushupti, deep sleep, which is universally liked, unconditionally. Who does not like a good sleep? Tell me. Everyone loves it. Everybody loves a sound sleep. If the sleep is a source of ananda, what is there in sleep to make everyone love it so much? There's only one thing available in sleep, and that is I, the Chetana Tattvam, the consciousness principle. Other than consciousness principle, nothing else is available in sleep. The sense organs do not function. The body is not functioning. The mind, dormant. The entire outside world, not available. You don't have to have a clue as to what's going on. the world is folded. So the sleep Ananda cannot come from any of those objects. External world object is not available to you. And yet, when you get up from sleep, you say, I slept well. I didn't know a thing. That also you say. So the sleep Ananda does not come from any sense object. So where does it come from? That Atma, the consciousness, has to be there in sleep. Everything else is turned off, but not Ananda, that Atma is there. And since that sleep, when you get up from sleep, good sleep, you say, I enjoyed it so much, so that joy, that Ananda, that has to be the nature of the consciousness, which is the only thing in sleep that was existing. That existence consciousness, that alone was there in the sleep. Nothing else was there. So it is Atmananda alone. Another name for Atmananda is Nirvishaya Ananda. It's happiness without any Vishaya. Therefore, Bhashyakara says, Sushuptau Nirvishaya Atmananda Anubhuyate. There is Ananda coming from oneself, not from any Vishaya, because objects are not there. The world is turned off. Your sense organs are not perceiving objects. It is not a sensory pleasure. So thus he has given Anumana and Pratyaksha Pramana. He does not give Shruti Pramana, but you are all familiar with that. I'll just recall your memory from Taittiriya Upanishad. Ananda Atma Brahma Pucham Pratishta Satya Priyameva Shirah Modo Dakshina Pakshah Pramodo Uttara Pakshah Ananda Atma. The Shruti evidence from the Upanishad is there. Ananda Swarupa. That is another pramana. And the last one is Aitehyam, the statement of Acharya. No quotation is given, but we can add from Panchadashi. Shankaracharya cannot add from Panchadashi because Vidyaranya Swami came later. All right. Anyway, in Panchadashi, that also we have studied, but almost more than 3 years ago. So I don't expect you to reference. You can go back and check. Ihamatma paranandah parapremaspadam yatah mana bhuvamihi bhuyasam iti prematmanikshite. It's the 8th verse in the first chapter of Panchadashi. And tat pramatmartam anyatra naivam anyartam atmani atastat paramam tena paramanandat atmanah. So he concludes, and that, by the way, is the 9th verse. Verses 8 and 9 in the first chapter of Panchadashi. If you want, you can go back and refer. So he concludes, Shrutihi Pratyakshamai Aitihyam Anumanam cha. There's 4 pramanas, of which Shankaracharya provided 2 and we added the other 2. That's all 4 evidences. Jagrati reveals that Atma is Sadananda Swarupaha, ever blissful. It is not some Atma, I repeat, that it is ever blissful. You are that Atma, you are ever blissful. Don't you ever complain, I'm so miserable. Don't you do that. You are Ananda Swarup. So with this, the Sukshma Sharira topic, we started from verse 92. is complete. Of course, the last two verses, 106 and 107, not exactly on Sukshma Sharira, but an aside topic on Atma. Then from verse 108, we will enter the topic of Karana Sharira, which we will take up in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.